Thank you so much. All right, hi, my name is Harper Okamoto, and this is my senior capstone proposal on the topic of the fundamental elements of art. But first, a brief overview of who I am. Like I said, my name is Harper Okamoto. I transferred to UH West Oahu in the fall of 2022 from Leeward Community College, where I earned my associates in digital media. But before that, I was actually homeschooled all the way through high school, and I graduated in 2019. I am majoring in creative media, and my concentration is in design and media. Here's a quick overview of what I'll be discussing in my presentation today. First, I'll go over my thesis statement, and then I'll explain my objective and rationale of the research that I conducted. Then I'll lay out my plans for my senior capstone project. And finally, I'll address the significance of my proposed project with some research. So jumping straight into it, as I mentioned in the beginning, the topic of my capstone project is on the fundamental elements of art, which cover concepts like line, shape, and color. My thesis statement is understanding which key elements of visual art provide essential information to help the human brain recognize subject matter efficiently will allow artists and designers to communicate their message more accurately. So basically, kind of analyzing the specific ways that we as artists and designers can use the elements of art thoughtfully in our work in order to communicate efficiently with our audiences. The reason that I chose this topic is because I've always loved art and design. I learned about the various elements of art throughout my development as an artist, but I always felt like I was missing like a deeper understanding of them. It felt kind of like I was learning like the definitions and what they were and how to identify them rather than how to use them as tools in my artwork. I'm also really interested in cartoons and other very like highly stylized forms of art that kind of utilize the elements to exaggerate different aspects of the subject matter. So I was always curious as to what went into that, and I wanted to look more into how subjects are simplified but also still represented so clearly using the different elements of art. In addition to my personal art, I also do a little bit of marketing work for my job. So it got me thinking about how the elements can help me in that field as well. Specifically with how I could use the elements in combination with the principles of design to make work that is eye-catching to potential consumers, but also still communicates the important information clearly. And the last reason that I decided on this topic and project was because I felt like it could be a really valuable resource that would be accessible to other artists and designers like myself who want to like equip themselves with more tools that will help them achieve their artistic visions in whatever area that may be. It doesn't have to be marketing. It can be like UI and UX or even just like your personal art. Moving on to my plans for my senior capstone, I would like to develop a social media campaign, specifically an Instagram page, to help educate artists and designers on the functions of different elements of art and how they convey information to our brains so we can use them to our advantage in our work. I believe that a social media campaign is the best way to reach my target audience of young artists and designers. According to a report by Hiscox that was published by Statista on this slide, 7% of surveyed art buyers used Instagram to find new artists in 2020. This percentage is the result of a gradual increase from 48% of art buyers in 2016. From this statistic, we can deduce that because a large amount of art buyers use Instagram to find new artists, there must be a growing population of artists sharing their work on social media. For the last point on this slide, I believe that a social media campaign is the best deliverable for this project because it provides me with enough versatility to actively apply the concepts that will be discussed through visual posts, and they can be directly compared to other posts that are on the platform as well. Moving on to the significance of this project, for point one, as I already discussed, is that young artists and designers can benefit from learning the actual functions of the fundamental elements of art and not just their definitions like I learned. The future implication of this would be that knowing how our brain perceives certain elements will allow artists to use them as thoughtful tools, thus being able to create art more efficiently. I've seen so many young artists, I think, struggle to achieve their artistic vision because they lack the knowledge of the fundamental elements of art and don't quite understand how to utilize them in ways that efficiently represent their subject. For example, artists who are learning to draw hair may create like many lines to represent each strand, but the overall image often ends up looking kind of unnatural as a result. So instead, it would probably be more efficient to represent the hair as a whole shape or made up of bigger parts rather than individual strands. Of course, this isn't a hard and fast rule since art is subjective, but it's a common solution to ensure that the subject doesn't come off as unnatural, since it mimics the way that our brain kind of perceives it. For point number 2, the intelligent use of elements in marketing and advertising can increase effectiveness in reaching consumers. The future implications of this would be that consumers would be able to comprehend an ad's message more efficiently and be able to recall it more easily. According to a report published by Statista, this one, 36% of consumers are more likely to be interested in brands that have appealing or eye-catching ads. In order to create engaging ads, brands must utilize good design methods that appeal to our brain's natural information processing. On a similar note, my third point for the significance section is that consumers can also benefit from having an understanding of the elements of art. Future implications of this would be that being able to recognize intentional design in a company's branding can help tell consumers which companies are genuine in their products or services. For example, if a consumer is interested in something like skincare, they would be more likely attracted to ads that feature like softer or rounder shapes rather than sharp or jagged ones, since our brain associates softer shapes with more organic subjects and sharp and jagged shapes with less organic subjects. Rounder shapes may also give the impression that this company is friendly and inviting for the same reasons. If this branding is consistent across all the company's marketing, this tells the consumer that the business pays attention to detail and is more likely of good quality and is easier to trust. Moving, I'd like to briefly discuss my target audience for the project. My target audience is artists and designers who have a basic understanding of the fundamental elements of art. They are around the ages of 15 to 25 years old and avid users of social media, whether or not that be as producers or consumers of art. Their occupations most likely include graphic designers, marketing artists, illustrators, or any other occupation that would cause them to be interested in communicating specific messages through visual work. For this final stint, I would like to address my plans for my senior capstone project deliverable. The solution that I'm offering is a survey campaign that aims to educate artists on the specific functions of the elements of art and how they influence our perception of subject matter. As a result of this campaign, I hope for artists and designers to feel empowered in their ability to use the elements of art as tools to communicate their messages in ways that will be clearly understood by their audience. The process of my deliverable will start with a few essential pre-production tasks like collecting the specific ideas for posts and conducting additional research on topics. I would also like to develop a consistent art style for the images that I'll be posting and establish a posting schedule to keep me on track for the production process. The actual production process itself will involve the creation of the posts, which will be designed in Photoshop or a different software if I see fit. And I will also be writing informative captions for each post that go into more detail about the concept. And then finally, the post-production process will consist of posting the images and responding to audience feedback, if any. I would also like to share posts and other content from creators using Instagram's stories feature if they're relevant to the ideas that I'm discussing on my page. And then on this slide, I have a couple images that I gathered like as inspiration for the visual style of my deliverable. I think that the simplicity and the clarity of the designs would work well to not overwhelm my audience, since I'll be providing a lot of like educational information on each concept. And I also think like the cleanliness of the designs gives off like an air of professionalism and quality. And then on this slide, I've listed just a couple examples of topics that I'll discuss in individual posts. And that includes stuff like shape language, color meanings and associations, composition, principles of design, how our brain prioritizes like the different elements of art, and then a couple case studies of brands that use the elements of art effectively in their branding. And with that, that concludes my presentation on my senior capstone project proposal. Thank you so much for listening, and I'm happy to answer any questions if you have any.